As brands shift towards audience-based strategies, this conversation will shed light on how AI-powered programmatic tools can drive real-world results. Joining us for this discussion are Gunjan Khetan, Chief Marketing Officer, India, Perfetti Van Melle, in conversation with Ritu Gupta, former Global Marketing Leader, Dell Technologies. Everyone, please put your hands together for our next discussion. Let's tune into this exciting exchange of ideas.
Good evening, everyone. Not quite sure if we're standing between you and the refreshments, so we'll try and keep it crisp and absolutely sharp. So good evening, Gunjan.
Good evening, Ritu.
How's the day been?
Busy.
Busy, yes. All right, so I've been sitting in the back row and listening to the conversation, in the evening, and there's been a lot of discussion about programmatic and how that's the challenges and how a lot of brands and some of the esteemed colleagues earlier have spoken about it. I want to talk about somebody who has worked across categories, somebody who's worked across geographies. What has been your observation about the evolution of media buying in programmatic to what it used to be a few years ago to what it is now?
Yeah, there's been a significant change for sure. I think initially when we all started, I remember I was just a brand manager and getting just likes on my Facebook page was my KPI done. Okay, I remember I was on Harpic and there was a day when I got 50,000 likes and followers on Harpic page, and I very proudly went to my marketing director and said, mission accomplished. So those were the days that we all started social media with. And since then, a lot has changed. The industry has evolved along with technology. Obviously, we started by chasing impressions and reach and just getting our information and messaging out to people. And now we have reached a place where we can do much more and go after so many other things. We can do programmatic buying, we can do audience management, we can create profiles, we can drive optimization through automatic bidding. It's a massive, massive change, and I think it's still transitioning as AI becomes more and more prevalent, and there are more and more AI tools that drive optimization of media. I think this part of the industry is going to see a massive amount of change.
Awesome, absolutely, and I think that's what we've been seeing, even the evolution that a lot of brands have been going through. You spoke about audience, audience-based buying. So let me ask you, according to you, in your experience, what makes audience-based buying a more powerful strategy and a more effective strategy versus a traditional approach that probably marketers like you and I have grown up on over the years?
Yeah, interesting question, but not very difficult to answer because I think initially when the technology wasn't there or data wasn't as prevalent, we would chase impressions and which were essentially like spray and pray, right? That some of this would eventually reach out to consumers. I think a lot of, unfortunately, it's slightly controversial, but a lot of TV advertising still happens like that, right? You just go after GRPs and don't know who's watching and why they are watching, what is the context in which they are watching. With digital and programmatic buying, you can control a lot of this. You can control the context in which you're buying, you can create profiles, you can basis the tools that are available, whether they're device IDs, whether browsing habits, whether there's the purchase power, whether there's any past interaction they've had with your brand, you can start to create a profile of this audience, and that profile is something that you can leverage to drive efficiency, B, better response to your campaign, C, if you've got a D2C backend, you can also drive conversion and purchase intent, right? So I think as data becomes more prevalent, as we get more and more smarter tools to manage the data and link it back to our media, I think there's a massive role for audience-based buying in driving optimization and also driving sales.
How would a brand's measuring metrics the metrics that are being measured to check for the efficacy of a campaign. How would that vary in this audience-based buying approach versus what it used to be earlier? And how has that changed for you in for your brands?
Yeah, so the metrics have become more sophisticated and also more complicated, right? Initially, you would go after impressions, as I was saying, likes, how many um, um, how many millions have you reached, right? But now with so much data available, so many smart tools available, and also the intellect of marketing as a community that's evolved, people are chasing more sophisticated KPIs, whether it's, and this kind of varies by the objective you set for your campaign, right? If the objective is still to drive reach, then you will still go after impressions. If the objective is to drive engagement, then there's a host of other tools that you want to go after. You want to go after share, you want to go after likes, you want to go after VTRs, you want to go after completion rate. So the whole lot of tools when it comes to this. Then the third thing is, if you really want to go after, for example, how did the messaging comprehension sit with the consumers? Then you start to go after brand recall, then you start to go after brand lift studies. So it's completely dictated by the objective that you set for your campaign and for yourself. And then make a list of KPIs that you want to track. And then once you have that, then you look at the right platform in which you can go after those KPIs, which platforms are stronger for which KPIs. Then you also then work on the right tools that you are going to use to measure some of those KPIs.
Before we came on, in the previous panel as well, there was discussion about AI in programmatic, right? And I know when you and I were having a brief chat, you did mention about how you experimented with that. So what has been your experience of AI-powered programmatic strategies, and how did that deliver for you? And what difference did that make?
Yeah, so I think for us personally, I think we are still soaking in the role of AI in digital marketing and programmatic buying and stuff. But I think my team did a very, very interesting piece of work when it comes to role of AI in programmatic buying. So they work with a tool which kind of optimizes basis real-time bidding, okay, versus manual interventions at certain moments. And that, so this is a tool that we deployed on one of the campaigns, and what we realized was it leads to a significant amount of saving versus a traditional way of buying media. So this real-time continuous optimization, every second optimization using the AI tool can really lead to a significant amount of saving. So now what we are doing is we are looking at avenues of bringing this tool at a scale within our digital media buying.
Okay. And any challenges that you faced in that process?
No, not in that process per se. I think the biggest challenge was whether we believe in the power of this, and we ran a very controlled experiment, and obviously we ensured that we measure every bit of it, and we saw the saving. I think there are larger challenges to be thought of, the role of privacy, the fact that we are moving into a cookieless world, so therefore it creates a lot of boundaries, and it also creates paucity of data if you're not very forward-looking, right? It's also about how marketing as a function is looking at some of these technological capabilities and how are they thinking future forward, and already starting to bring and experiment with some of these tools. So for me, those are the larger strategic challenges that I deal with. And as the technology evolves, for us, I think the mantra is to basically test and learn, and therefore continuously optimize our media plans and get more bang for the buck from our campaigns.
Absolutely. in that bang for the buck and in optimizing media plans, and I know, there's a lot of conversation about future of programmatic with AI and how as AI kind of scales. I'm going to flip that question a bit because you spoke about how you're going to measure that and how will you optimize the data. From an India perspective, particularly, and for all of this, what's very essential is data. Data is the bedrock and the key to the entire programmatic piece, in being in place. But from an India perspective, I also feel that's one of the biggest challenges in terms of availability of that micro level data or authenticity of that data. What's your take on that?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm thinking of a yes and no answer. Okay, I think you are partly correct. The quality of data is always questionable, especially in countries like India, where the source of some of the data is a bit messy. I just to give you an idea of why I say this is because I used to run a D2C business when I was in US. Okay. And there's just so many boundaries around the data, and the cleanliness of the data is completely undisputed. Okay, whereas when you come to India, yes, there is an issue with privacy. There's an issue with where are you collecting data from? Are you even telling people that you are collecting the data? What is the data that you're getting? Sometimes, I mean, a couple of years back, we ran a contest and we got lot of winning entries, and we realized that someone messed with the data. Okay, so all that challenge is there, but the reality is, considering our size of population, considering the penetration of mobile, of ease of access to data, and the scale of our population, the advantage is the amount of data that we could be sitting on, right? And how do we smartly take this and use it as a competitive advantage, not just as marketeers or media people, but also as a country, okay? We can be the data mine house of the world, technically, right? So for me, it's a disadvantage, but also a massive, massive opportunity. And to be honest, the answer on which way do we swing sits with maybe people in this room. How do we take this forward and really create a bigger, better, brighter future for all of us?
Absolutely, absolutely. Gunjan, great discussion. I'm going to open the room, to the room. Any questions for Gunjan here? Okay, I think we did a good job.
Or no, people are waiting for dinner.
Possibly. But nevertheless, I think it's needless. It's very obvious that programmatic, of course, has been here to stay. It's been around, for longer than a lot of us think. AI in different avatars before Chat GPT stole the limelight has been around, especially in the programmatic space, for the longest time ever, because it has been going on, and there is no going back to it. So it's only going to evolve. And as you rightly said, I think the answer in terms of whatever challenges there are is sitting jointly between the marketeers, the advertisers, and the media, and the media and the data providers as well, media platforms as well. So with that, thank you so much. I'm sure it's going to be an interesting journey for all of us, and we're going to unlearn and learn a lot of it as we go along.
Thank you, Ritu. You've been a fantastic moderator, and you made me absolutely comfortable. Thank you so much.
Not at all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gunjan and Ritu. And I would request both of you to please stay on stage. Thank you so much. And with this discussion, we have come to an end of this event. What an incredible day of insight, celebration, and thought leadership. A special thanks to our presenting sponsor, the Trade Desk, for their support in making this event possible. And please join us for cocktails and dinner where you can continue networking with industry leaders and peers. Thank you all for being a part of India's most influential Digital Leaders Awards and the Leadership Collective 2025. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure hosting all of you. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much, everyone.